I just wanted to send you some video coverage going over some of Cannoli's training. I know I've said a couple of things here and there, so I'm probably going to go over things again, just because I don't even remember what I said and what I haven't said. So there will be a separate video featuring another dog going over our e-collar, and that's just because I don't want to go over it 4,000 times. So it's just a general description of the e-collar, but I'm going to demonstrate it specifically for Cannoli in part of this video. And then I have a couple of other little clips that I'll send of him working on his recall and things like that. So the biggest thing with him right now is going to be keeping up with our marker system. So he is charged on a mechanical clicker. So if you ever find yourself using that, he knows what that information means. So what we do with that is, if I ask him to do something and he does it, I will click to mark that moment in time and then let him come and get a reinforcement from me. But the big ones, the verbal cues are going to be good, is going to be our marker word for a moment in time that he does something that we like. So if I ask him to sit, as soon as his little hiney goes to the ground, I'm going to say the word good. If you have a reinforcement, he can have that then. But this is mostly going to be our duration marker. So this is going to be something where if I tell him to go into a behavior, I'm going to say good, and I'm going to periodically reinforce him with that good to keep him in that behavior. I want him to remain in behavior until he is given his release word, which is going to be okay. That is a terminal marker. So if I put him into a sit and I say the word good, when I'm ready for him to be done with that behavior, I'm going to say okay for him to be able to come out. No and are going to be our infraction markers. So using the sit again, if I tell him to sit and he doesn't sit, I'm going to say no or sit again for him to go into that behavior. Or if he's in a sit and he breaks it before I release him, I will say no, sit to put him back into behavior, and then okay once we're done. Hi. The way we give commands are going to be clear, firm, and direct. We're not asking, we're not yelling, it's just very straightforward. Clarity is very key with dogs. We want to make sure he understands what we're asking. Remember that he's a dog and he doesn't speak English, so this obedience was established to give him a common language between us. So we give the command clearly. I only like to give the command one time. If he does not immediately do what I ask, then I will apply some form of pressure to get him to go into behavior. So there's no sit, 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 Cannoli, sit, sit, sit. We're going to apply pressure after that first command to help him into behavior, and then once he's in behavior, mark with that good to show him that we like that. So pressure is going to be leash pressure or e-collar pressure, which I'll go over in a minute. Spatial pressure. So leash pressure is going to be, actually let me go back. Pressure, what I mean by that is applying something, tension, e-collar pressure, spatial pressure is applying tension, for instance with the leash, when he shows us the behavior that we like, that is when we counter with the release of tension. So the pressure, talking about leash pressure, the pressure is going to generally be in the direction that we need him to move into or to kind of coerce him into. So again, with a sit, when dogs go into a sit, their head kind of comes upward like that. So we are going to mimic that gesture. So if I ask him to sit, I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure upwards. When his hiney hits the ground, I will release the pressure, release the tension. If I'm asking him to go into a down, which sometimes he's stubborn about the down. So if I say down and he stares at me like I don't feel like it, a little bit of pressure downwards until he starts going into his down, and then release of pressure, good as the marker. E-collar pressure, it's going to be more about applying the e-collar stem in that continuous fashion. So if I want him to come to me and he's doing his own thing, ignoring me, and I say no, come, at the cuff come, I apply that pressure, the e-collar button. As soon as he starts committing to coming to me, I release the pressure, or release the button, good, to mark that moment in time that he switched into doing what I wanted him to do. Spatial pressure is going to be more about using your presence to move him. So dogs socially, if you've ever seen them interact when they're when they're being social and peaceful, they usually kind of face each other sideways. So they're presenting their side. So they'll kind of just play around like that, pushing their butt into them and things like that. Their front gesture is going to be much more confronting. So if two dogs are facing each other head on, usually there's conflict. So when using spatial pressure, that means I'm going to just kind of present my front towards him and move into him a little bit, not actually making physical contact, but just gesturing towards him. As soon as he backs off, that's when I release that pressure. And then again, mark with the good. Are you going to sleep? So yeah, one time, using pressure to help fix behavior, to help gesture a dog into behavior, things like that. The biggest thing is to make sure that when make sure that you do not release whatever pressure you're using until you have the desired behavior, because where you release pressure is going to be what is reinforced. So if a dog is pulling and he's dragging you along, when you get to where you're going, that is when you release the pressure. That teaches dogs that pulling gets you to point B from point A. So if Cannoli is walking a little bit ahead and you want him to move backwards, use my side. So let's say he's up here a little bit. When I want him to come back here, I'm going to apply just a little bit of pressure backwards. When he is back by my side, I release the tension right there. If he's not responding to just my leash, you have your e-collar, or you can use spatial pressure. So I will kind of turn into him a little bit until he backs off. And once he backs off, pressure is released. Good, to mark that moment in time. Sorry, lost my train of thought. Be mindful of the amount of pressure that you use, whatever form you're using. You never want to apply too much pressure. If it's something where it's too much pressure, you have a fork in the road where if you continue on because you don't want to reinforce the wrong behavior, you can taint the behavior. You can make it a bad situation. You can make it an unfavorable situation because too much pressure was applied and now the dog has a negative feeling towards whatever you were asking the dog to do. Or you prematurely release pressure, you reinforce the wrong behavior, and then dogs learn that, oh, I throw a little bit of a tantrum and the pressure goes away. So that can quickly become something where if you just apply a little bit of pressure, your dog already knows how to get out of that, is by acting out and spazzing out, whatever.